Hello, sir.
Good evening, Naika. Just 1 minute. Let everyone join. And I'm messaging in the group. Oh, sorry. It was 8th class.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening, Nanika. Good evening, Saiti. Okay, I think
Good evening, sir. I'm Rudra. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
almost everyone has joined, so we can start now. We were doing about combustion and flame, right? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So we were just doing about. I think the last topic we did was ignition temperature.
Yes.
Yes. So what is ignition temperature? Define ignition temperature.
So the maximum temperature at which an object or a thing burns, a substance.
Not maximum, minimum. The minimum temperature required by a substance to catch fire. The minimum temperature required by a substance to catch fire is called ignition temperature. Got it? Just 1 minute. Combustion and flame. Okay, so on the basis of this, we were doing the methods of firefighting. Okay, so we observed that if there is no supply of oxygen, then the fire will go off. Right? We did with an activity, and we observed that the fire will go off if there is no oxygen available, right? The second method is bringing down the temperature of a fuel. Bringing down the temperature of a fuel, that also extinguishes fire. So fire can be extinguished. Yeah. So in the last class, we just did this activity. Now, methods of firefighting. See, the methods of firefighting, they are based on the necessities of combustion. What all things they are required for combustion. So on that basis, we have methods of firefighting. Yes, so what are the methods? There are three main methods of firefighting. Namely, the first method is cutting off the supply of oxygen. This is the yes, cutting off the supply of oxygen. So if you cut off the supply of oxygen, so cutting off the supply of oxygen, then we can have removal of the fuel. Then you can have
Using fire extinguishers.
So see, we'll come to fire extinguisher. These are the main methods which we are adopting. Either if you are using fire extinguisher or you are using sand or anything. So what we are actually trying, if you are using water, so whatever you are using, these are the things that we are trying out. Okay. What are the things we try out? We try to cut off the supply of oxygen. We try to remove the fuel, or we decrease the temperature of the fuel. So you decrease the temperature fuel to below its ignition temperature. So these are the things that we are doing. These are the methods that we will be adopting, whether you are using fire extinguisher, whether you are using sand, whether you are covering the substance with something. So what you are doing, you are using these methods to cut off the supply of oxygen. Got it? Using any of these methods, you will be able to extinguish the fire. So let's see what happens. Can anyone tell me how does fire extinguisher work?
Sir, I will explain, sir.
Yes?
Sir, I'll
Sir, when we
Asya.
use Sir, when we use fire extinguisher, the CO2 in the fire extinguisher will cover the will like it don't allow the oxygen to come to the fuel, sir. So that can stop the supply of oxygen because it is thicker than oxygen, sir. CO2 is thicker than oxygen, so that it can act as a blanket around the fuel.
See, these are some of the few things which you have heard of. I'll tell you one more thing which happens over here. Okay, a very important thing that happens over here. See, how does it work? All of you pay attention. How does fire extinguisher work? So fire extinguisher produces carbon dioxide. Tan, Tanmay, so fire extinguisher produces carbon dioxide, which expands quickly Okay, very good, Tanmay. I see. It seems you have kept the camera on. Very good. Okay. So the same should be there. Everyone should keep their camera on. All right. So how does fire extinguisher work? A fire extinguisher, it produces carbon dioxide, which expands quickly when exposed to fire or when heated. So when you are throwing that carbon dioxide on fire, so that carbon dioxide, it expands, and when it expands, it displaces. When it expands, it displaces. It displaces oxygen. So when carbon dioxide expands, it displaces oxygen. So when carbon dioxide expands, it displaces oxygen from near the fuel. It extinguishes fire. Got it? So this is how it is working. So in short, what do we do? What do we say when we do not understand the mechanism? What we say, Varshit? Varshit, can you read what is written?
Yes, sir. Fire extinguishers produce carbon dioxide, which expands quickly when heated. When carbon dioxide expands, it displaces oxygen
Hmm.
from near the fuel, hence it extinguishes fire.
Yes. So we see, as we know, when the gases are heated up, they expand. Okay, so when you throw carbon dioxide over fire, so it gets heated up and it expands. And when it expands, it displaces all the oxygen present over there. And therefore, since there is no oxygen available, hence the supply of oxygen is cut off. So in short, what we have learned that a fire extinguisher, it cuts off the supply of oxygen to the fuel. Got it? Okay. So this is the method how the fire extinguisher works. The next method is removal of fuel. Okay. Or how does water extinguish fire? Let's say. Amatur Rahman, Amatur Rahim, can you explain how does water extinguish fire?
Uh,
Yes. Amatur, can you explain how does water extinguish fire?
So it helps by evaporating it. It creates the
It
steam
helps
and
the it helps the
it evaporates the fire by creating steam.
your voice is too low.
sir,
Yes,
can I say,
yes,
sir?
yes.
Sir, like water extinguishes fire by the third point you have said, sir. It decreases the temperature of fuel to below its ignition temperature. It decreases the
Yes,
temperature, sir.
yes. So,
Sir, and water has high ignition temperature.
yes, water itself water doesn't burn also. Okay, it doesn't burn. It can boil, right? So it doesn't burn. See, so here water decreases the temperature of fuel.
Sir, like it will cool the fuel.
Yeah, it will cool the fuel, so its temperature will be low and hence it cannot burn. Okay. So water decreases the temperature of fuel below ignition temperature. Hence, stopping the fuel from further burning. So this is how water extinguisher. Yes, the next question is how does sand extinguishes fire? Who will explain how does sand extinguishes fire?
Sir, may I, sir? Sir, Nainika, sir. Can I?
Yeah, Nanika.
Sir, so sand, it covers the fuel, sir, which causes it to stop burning as it is, stopping oxygen from getting to the fuel, which does not allow it to burn, sir. Hello?
Okay, see, the sand covers the fuel and therefore allowing does not allow air to come in contact with the fuel. Okay, now the sand is in contact with the with air, which cannot burn itself. Okay, so sand prevents fire by covering the fuel. Got it? Okay, so yeah, understood everyone? How does firefighting work?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we just see this one. Okay, let's see the different other concepts that we have learned here in this chapter. So we have learned combustion. Again, just see the definition of combustion. I'll be asking the definition of combustion. It should be learned by everyone. So Saiti, can you tell the definition of combustion?
Yes, sir. Yes. So combustion is the chemical process where it is the burning of a substance in the presence of oxygen.
Okay. Okay, so here another definition, a chemical process in which a substance reacts with oxygen of air to give heat and light is called combustion.
Sound also, sir.
Yes,
Sound. Heat, light, and sound.
heat and light is called combustion. Heat and light are there. Sound may or may not be there.
Okay. Sir.
Then combustible substances, a substance which can undergo combustion is called as a combustible substance. Non-combustible substances, a substance which cannot undergo combustion is called a non-combustible substance. Examples of combustion reaction, the reaction of magnesium. So here the reaction has been written of magnesium with oxygen. Magnesium reacts with oxygen to form magnesium oxide and liberate heat and energy, heat, light and energy. So it liberates heat and light along with formation of magnesium oxide. Factors required for combustion. What all factors are required for combustion? These three things we discussed. A combustible substance, oxygen, and ignition temperature. So a combustible substance is the presence of the fuel which we were discussing. Then oxygen and ignition temperature. Okay. Now all the above factors can be represented by a fire triangle. So remember this fire triangle. In this fire triangle, you have oxygen, heat, and fuel. So these three things are necessary for combustion. Okay. Will you be able to remember the fire triangle?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. So just draw this fire triangle in your notebook. Draw the fire triangle: oxygen, heat, and fuel.
That's it.
Yes,
That's it.
done. Okay.
So what should we write?
This is a fire. This is also called fire triangle. It represents the three factors which are necessary. It represents the three factors which are necessary for fire. Then next, inflammable substances. See, one you had studied about the combustible substances. These are inflammable substances. There is a little bit of difference between inflammable substances and combustible substances. A substance which has very low ignition temperature. Okay. So a substance which has very low ignition temperature, so that it can easily catch fire, is called as an inflammable substance. So their ignition temperatures are very low. With just a small temperature, it will catch fire. So these substances, they are petrol, alcohol, LPG, CNG, all these are inflammable substances. They can easily catch fire. Okay, so now we are doing the fire control here. So methods to control fire. The burning substance or fuel cannot be removed in most of the cases of fire. So we have seen that whenever fire catches, so it is very difficult to remove the burning substance. So therefore, from the fire triangle, it's not easy to remove the fuel or the substance. Okay. The other two you can do, like different methods can be utilized to cut off the supply of air. If a sustainable substance is poured over the burning material, it can reduce the temperature and even bring down the temperature below the ignition temperature. So what all things can be? So now some of the common fire extinguishers. See, there are different types of fire extinguishers which can be used. Like we have water as a fire extinguisher. We have blanket as a fire extinguisher. We have sand as a fire extinguisher. We have carbon dioxide as a fire extinguisher. Water is the most often used fire extinguisher. Can anyone tell why we use mostly water as a fire extinguisher?
So, because usually in any area you can find water rather than you can find a blanket or something like a fire extinguisher.
Yeah, water is
Sir,
easily
may I?
available.
Sir, may I tell the point?
Sir, water is used because uh, except for electric shocks, we can use water in like buildings, like burning of buildings or any like anything where petrol works like that. We can use sand and water. Whereas only in electric shocks, we can use the uh, like sand.
So why we use water? Can anyone think of why in most of the cases we use water only?
Sir, it's abundantly found, sir.
Yeah,
Sir,
it's
it's
Sir,
easily
it's
abundantly
easily
found.
available.
It's easily available, abundantly found. It's cheap. Okay, it's sustainable. So you can use water easily whenever fire catches. Okay, but the only drawback is that you cannot use water for electrical fires. For electrical fires, you can't use water because it would cause shock, or even for oil.
But water is good conductor for electricity.
Yeah, water is a good conductor of electricity. Okay, so you can't use for electric fires, or also you can't use water for those fires, for oil fires, like petrol and diesel fires. Over there, you can't use water. Got it? Then blanket. So if fire is at a small scale, then a blanket can be very useful, like you have seen this way. I will show you one of the picture where a blanket is used to control fire on small scales. Okay, so here we see blanket. This one is use of blanket.
When we got fire,
Where?
petrol pumps. In
Where?
petrol pumps, like that, sir.
Yeah, in petrol pump, what happened?
Sir, no, sir, like you told like the use of blanket while controlling the fire. So like we can
Yes,
like
yes,
they will use
yes. Over there you can use. Okay, over there you can use a wet blanket.
and then roll on the floor.
Yes. In controlling fire of gas cylinder. See, you must have seen people showing training for controlling fire on use over gas cylinder, something like this. See, at home, like here you can see a small fire is taking place. Here on the gas stove, a small fire is there. Here also on the gas stove, a small fire is there. Here in this picture. So in all these pictures, we see the use of a blanket. Here you can see if there is a fire over a gas cylinder, so you can use a blanket to cover it. You can use a wet blanket to cover it. Like in this case also you can use a wet blanket to cover it. This will extinguish the fire. Got it? Yes?
Yes, sir.
You see. Here also in a pan or wherever a fire has catch, so you can use a blanket. So the problem with the blanket is that you can use it for when a fire is on a small scale. But if it is on a large scale, it is not possible to cover it with a blanket. Got it? So that is the problem with the fire of large scale, and you can't use blanket everywhere. Then carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide, this is the best fire extinguisher as you can use it everywhere. All right, you can use it everywhere. So carbon dioxide, it can be used even uh, for controlling oil fires. It can be used for controlling electric fires also. It can be used for controlling other fire also. So these fire extinguishers, they are of different types. Like it can be soda acid fire extinguisher, it can be a foam spray, it can be a dry powder. So there are different types of fire extinguishers which are available. So here you see 4 types of fire extinguishers have been shown: a dry powder fire extinguisher, a foam spray, water, and carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide, it can be used everywhere, but it cannot be used on wood, paper, and textiles. Can you think of why it can't be used on wood, paper, and textiles? Okay. So understood about the fire controlling methods? The dry powder spray, it can be used everywhere. Yes, Pranav?
Like, do fire extinguishers cause global warming, sir? Like, because they release carbon dioxide into the air.
But will you allow everything to catch fire and wait for global warming?
No, sir.
No. Obviously, that is more hazardous than global warming. Okay. Okay, fine. We'll continue our discussion from here further. Okay. Okay, bye all of you. See you again in next class. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye,
Bye,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Rudra,
Thank you.
Tanmay,
Yes, sir.
were you sleeping?
No, sir.
Okay, okay.